Government simply can't be all things to all people. We are extremely reliant on organizations such as the Lions Club to step up and to fill in the gaps of what government just can't do. And I think it's also not just the service they provide, but the heart that they bring to their service. When the government, people, we do it for a job, we care and we want to do it, but when the organizations such as Lions become involved, it really is from a pure sense of service and comes from their heart. And I think it's very meaningful to the people who are touched by them, and it's important to our state to continue to have their help.
There are no markers or memorials to note the truly groundbreaking events that occurred on this spot, yet something remarkable happened here. Something that would not only launch the humanitarian efforts of thousands upon thousands of Hawai'i volunteers, but an event that would change the world forever. Hi, I'm Diana Ko. Join me as we honor the historical legacy of the world's largest service organization, a legacy that might not have survived if not for the courageous stand of some humble citizens right here in Hawaii. You won't find any accounts of it in history books or hear it taught in schools, and that's unfortunate because the events surrounding their determined civil rights struggle for racial equality has seldom been told. That's why we're proud to bring you the little-known but amazing story of the Hawai'i Lions.
Because you really grow as you serve, and as you give out and as you serve others, you really receive more in return. And I think that's the most precious gift that we as Lions have, is that we can give that gift.
Any physical remnant of the birthplace of Lionism in Hawaii has been obliterated, unfortunately, by the march of time. But records show there used to be a beautiful old house right here at 1141 Richard Street. It's about 20 yards back on the Waikiki side of Richards, between Hotel Street over there and Beretania. Affectionately known among the locals as Mother Coney's home, it became better known as the Pan Pacific Clubhouse. And it was here that it all began. The 51 names on the charter document represented a who's who of the Honolulu business and social community. Since its official beginning on October 11, 1926, the true origins of the Lions Club of Honolulu have been steeped in mystery and misconceptions. Until now. The roots of the club actually began about 15 years earlier, inspired by local philanthropist Alexander Hume Ford. Never wanting for money, Ford hailed from a wealthy South Carolina family that provided him with the best education and all the refinements of a privileged life. But he was fiercely independent and determined to prove to his family that he could make it on his own. After graduating with a doctorate in philosophy, Ford established himself on the East Coast as a stage actor, playwright, journalist, and a New York Times best-selling author.
It was right about this time that he actually was getting sued for an article he had written concerning some very prominent people. He insinuated they were covering up the burial of some dead bodies in some faraway land, and it really made people mad. They sued him for a lot of money at the time. Ultimately, the case was dismissed, but I think that was just enough to get Ford to say, you know what, New York, been there, done that, time to move on.
After coming to Honolulu in 1907, Alexander Hume Ford became a fixture in Waikiki. He was fascinated by the unique Hawaiian sports he observed on local beaches. And like everything else he had done in life, Ford became consumed with learning all there was to know about rough water swimming, canoeing, and surfing. Using his wealth and contacts, Ford wasted no time founding the exclusive Outrigger Canoe Club in 1908. His direct efforts helped launch and finance the Olympic swimming career of legendary Duke Kahanamoku. And he used his vast media connections to promote the sport of surfing to the entire world through his own monthly magazine, The Mid-Pacific, which brought an entirely new image of Hawaii as water sports capital of the world to anxious readers from New York to LA. You'd think that'd be enough to satisfy the career of any man. But Alexander Hume Ford, becoming known locally as Pop Ford, was only getting started.
After really getting drenched in the entire local culture for so many years now, Pop Ford started to understand more and more that what was happening here in the islands, with so many cultures coming together and so many reasons for people to get along that were actually working, why not try to take that on a more global scale? And again, he had the wealth, he had the contacts, and he certainly wasn't afraid to tick people off. So he took what was happening here and started to formulate plans and all kinds of grand ideas to basically make Hawaii the center of the world.
Embarking on his new career of promoting global peace, Ford's Pan-Pacific Union Club would meet every Tuesday in the old Coney Estate at 1141 Richard Street, which is now the Ewa side of the state capitol grounds. It began as sort of a think tank for solving world problems, but it soon evolved into a political action group that tried to use the clout of their influential membership to effect social change. It wasn't long before Pop Ford and his Pan-Pacific followers began making news around the globe, openly challenging world leaders with some very radical ideas for the time.
I mean, you have to stop and consider. This man was contacting presidents like Harding and Wilson, dictators and chancellors and kings all over the world. He was getting their attention. Many times he would actually hand deliver these notices to them to come to Honolulu, understand the culture here, see how people get along, and maybe we can all work together to do this on a global scale. Literally, what Ford was proposing was the United Nations. And this was in like 1920, 1921. This was a very radical notion. Peace among all men of all nations, of all colors, of all cultures, of all religions. Way ahead of his time. He even wanted to have an Olympics here in Honolulu. Wow.
Meanwhile, over 5,000 miles away in Illinois, another group had already begun making news of their own. Founded by Chicago businessman Melvin Jones, the International Association of Lions Clubs was formed in 1917 in hopes of becoming another worldwide force for service to humanity. However, Jones and his Lions members targeted their mission directly to the grassroots level. While Pop Ford's Pan-Pacific Union sought to promote world peace by bringing about change from the top down, the Lions sought to create a better world, one local community at a time.
They can then demonstrate to one and all how this not only is possible, but why it's desirable to do it this way. If we in fact want to advance the community, then everybody gets to participate, and when that happens, it's exponential. It's not arithmetic. It grows larger than the sum of its individual parts.
The simple, non-political, non-religious concept of Lionism spread quickly throughout the U.S. But beyond a handful of clubs in Canada, the international part of Lionism was going nowhere. That's when Lions leadership in Chicago began taking an even greater interest in the small, but very noisy, Pan-Pacific Union Club in faraway territorial Hawaii. With both organizations seemingly seeking the same goals, it was only a matter of time before talk of a merger began. Melvin Jones made the first move. He sent representatives from California's Long Beach Lions Club to Honolulu in the spring of 1926. Their mission? To check out the Pan-Pacific Union Club and report back on the viability of uniting the two organizations. Lions leadership was hoping they'd be able to capitalize on the international credibility the Pan-Pacific Union had already established. The Pan-Pacific Union members welcomed the visitors with typical aloha, extending courtesies fit for heads of state. But Pop Ford knew exactly why the Lions had come calling, and, while openly gracious, he had his own motives to pursue a merger. The Pan-Pacific's Director of Education, Colbert Kurokawa, pored over the paperwork, while Ford entertained the mainland guests and began negotiations. But upon reading the fine print of the Lions Constitution, Kurokawa found a line under membership qualifications that would definitely be a deal breaker. Unbeknownst to the Honolulu group, it was the same obstacle that was preventing the Lions from expanding into Latin America and other parts of the world. The Constitution's rule for Lions membership was clear. Members shall be white.
The experience, of course, for many people on the mainland was segregation. People were segmented, literally, from one another. And so it wasn't necessarily, I think, that people even consciously thought much about it.
Kurokawa immediately knew they had a problem. The Lions' whites-only clause would prevent any hopes of a merger, unless one group would be willing to compromise.
Ford, Kurokawa, everybody here in the Pan-Pacific Union, they realized, no way, you either take all of us or you take none of us.
With that, Kurokawa packed his bags and left for a 2-month odyssey to convince the Lions membership on the mainland to amend their constitution.